Samira is known for her explosive playmaking potential. All she needs is one opening to solo carry a teamfight with huge AoE burst damage, and this playstyle is also reflected in Samira's most common item build. She is effectively an AD caster champion, which means she greatly benefits from lethality, but she also has good scalings with critical strike chance and marksman items. In theory, this makes her the perfect user of the item Collector since it combines lethality and crit, and consequentially the overwhelming majority of Samira players in fact purchase Collector every single game. But not all of them. Interestingly enough, there's one Samira player in particular who is swimming against the tide, and the player in question is not a mere nobody. After playing Collector Samira for the longest time, they eventually decided to stop buying the item in favor of something different, and they ultimately climbed to rank 1 on the Samira leaderboards with a 73% win rate in Master Tier Elo. So what is their secret? What are they seeing here that all other Samira players just overlook? This question really bothered me, so I ended up looking through several of their Samira replays to find the answer. How can it be beneficial for the champion whose abilities best synergize with Collector to entirely skip the item? Well, to solve this problem, it turns out we have to broaden our perspective and take a step back. I will tell you everything about the full rune and item setup in a second, but we first have to turn our attention to the core aspects of Samira's game plan, or else the build won't make sense. So while Collector is ubiquitously popular, it is not the first item people buy on Samira. Samira's true core item that you rush every single game is the mythic item Immortal Shield Bow, and without it, Samira's entire game plan would be fundamentally flawed. You know, unlike most AD casters, Samira cannot simply stand at max range and spam her spells, but she needs to be right in the middle of the action to do any meaningful damage. As a marksman champion, you already have a huge target on your back to begin with, and when Samira dashes into melee range, obviously everyone will start focusing her down right away. Shield Bow is absolutely key because of that, since the effective health from the shield in combination with its lifesteal enables you to kill them before they can kill you. Samira can only work as a champion as long as she is able to outduel her opponent, and the best duelist items are of course lifesteal items. Teamfights for Samira are effectively just extended duels, as your E resets allow you to switch from one opponent to the next, and because of that, your primary objective is to just stay healthy enough to keep going. And this principle is at the core of our rank 1 players' decision-making process that ultimately brought them to the conclusion to skip Collector entirely. Collector is a pure damage item after all. Yeah, okay, indirectly its damage means you get more value from lifesteal, and killing the enemy faster means they have less time to kill you, but I think we all can agree that Collector is not a defensive item, but rather purely offensive by nature. So when you are buying Shield Bow on Samira, you are actively countering whatever damage items your opponents might be buying, so you can consistently execute your game plan. With a second item Collector on the other hand, you are just getting better damage, while your enemies are also buying more damage, but since your primary objective is to stay healthy in teamfights to get your resets, this greedy purchase ultimately makes your game plan less consistent. Since consistency is key, especially in solo queue, the rank 1 player decided to stay true to Samira's game plan, purchasing Bloodthirster second item instead of Collector as part of their standard 3-item core build. Bloodthirster really takes your dueling power to the next level, because as long as you are dodging enemy crowd control, you can effectively drain tank through everything. Especially after all other sources of lifesteal have been nerfed, the 20% extra coming from Bloodthirster makes such a big difference. Yes, Collector is slightly cheaper and of course provides more damage, but after breaking down Samira's game plan, you know that pure damage output is not your number 1 priority. The trade-off in the end is that you take a little more time to kill them, but you still make it much less likely the enemy could kill you first. The combination of Shield Bow and Bloodthirster also takes care of the biggest counter to lifesteal builds, which is enemy burst damage. If they kill you before you can even start applying your lifesteal, it is obviously useless, but the extra shield from Bloodthirster on top of the lifeline shield and bonus health from your mythic item is a lot of effective health to go through. The enemy has very little chance to take you out before you simply start healing back up while dealing your own damage. You can be an extremely aggressive playmaker with these items while putting yourself at minimal risk. Normally, Samira is limited to following up on her allies' engages to protect herself from too much harm, but these 2 items allow you to take matters into your own hands and solo carry your games. You simply don't need the support from your teammates' crowd control spells to avoid damage, but instead you can avoid taking damage simply by dealing damage. At the same time, just because you skipped Collector's Burst in favor of Bloodthirster's survivability, you obviously don't randomly lose your potential to follow up on your allies' plays. When there is an opening and your teammate capitalizes, you are just as ready to jump in with your E and your passive. If anything, you can also be more aggressive in these situations since your defensive setup gives you more room for error, ironically enough making this build really beginner-friendly. The amount of damage you can take even with just 2 of the 3 core items is outright ridiculous. As long as there are viable targets on your screen you can use for drain tanking, really basic Samira spell combos are everything you need to start winning. Just opening up with WEQ to get your ultimate ready as fast as possible and then playing around your E resets to clean up will be enough to carry most fights, since the chance you actually die to opposing damage is super low. But as I've already suggested, this Master Tier Samira player doesn't simply stop there. In addition to the defensive items of Shieldbow and Bloodthirster, they also frequently purchase Death's Dance for their 3rd item. This one is not in every game of course, but definitely in most of them, because most team compositions have more physical damage dealers than magic damage dealers. This makes the armor on the item quite valuable, especially when you consider that lifesteal and shields are effectively just raw health, and health naturally scales with resistances. Again, you counter lifesteal users by killing them in one shot so they don't even get to apply their lifesteal, but resistance items like Death's Dance prevent your enemies from doing exactly that. In the late game, even an entire team focusing you down during a fight will hardly leave a scratch, giving you plenty of time to stack your ultimate and make use of your E resets. In fact, the item Death's Dance comes with its own little reset mechanic, healing you for an additional 175% of your bonus attack damage after every takedown, which is really significant when you keep in mind that this is already your 3rd attack damage item. And yes, the item is of course primarily a tool against physical damage with its armor component, but its passive will prevent mages from bursting you down as well. 10% of physical and magic damage you take is instead slowly dealt to you over 3 seconds, and this little bit of extra time will, in many situations, be all you need to apply more lifesteal and ultimately survive. It is the anti-burst damage item, effectively removing the only counter to this drain tanking strategy. And because it is so incredibly important for solo queue, I just have to once more emphasize the consistency. As an AD carry, one single mistake in the mid to late game can cost your team the match, because a caught AD carry equals a dead AD carry, and without your damage output, your team cannot contest objectives anymore. The 3 core items of Shieldbow, Bloodthirster and Death's Dance though will effectively turn a potentially game-losing mistake into a bait. Even when completely caught out of position, the enemy can never kill you fast enough to prevent you or your teammates from starting a counter-attack. You will have opportunity to put your valuable lifesteal to use no matter what, and especially after your teammates score the first takedown and Death's Dance kicks into full gear, you are almost guaranteed to survive. As I've said, there are matchups in which you don't want to buy Death's Dance, but before we lose ourselves in the details here, let's get the rune page out of the way first, because it is rather straightforward. The rank 1 player's rune page is Conqueror, Triumph, Legend Bloodline and Last Stand, with Eyeball Collection and Treasure Hunter secondary, and the shards are attack speed, adaptive force and armor. The healing runes probably don't need much further explanation, since we've already thoroughly shed light on the importance of drain tanking for Samira's game plan. Samira naturally uses these runes well, and especially Conqueror can be stacked quite smoothly alongside your passive, giving your ultimate maximum impact. One rune that might need some clarification though is Last Stand. Many people opt for Coup de Grace, and especially with a lifesteal heavy build like this one, Last Stand looks rather counterintuitive. However, keep in mind that you are fighting at low health quite frequently, since you are a priority target standing in melee range. Also, you don't even have that much lifesteal until you finish Bloodthirster, making it easy for your enemies to get you low enough for Shieldbow to trigger. Shieldbow and Last Stand actually have a very interesting synergy, since Last Stand's damage amplification reaches max value at your mythic item's lifeline threshold, which means you will overall get more value from this rune than from Coup de Grace. Eyeball Collection is simply chosen because of Samira's good AD scalings, and Treasure Hunter is, in my opinion, sleeper OP on marksman champions in general. Items are just immensely important for AD carries, as marksmen scale with gold better than most other champions, and Samira is not an exception. Especially when your item build is so extremely synergistic. You start the game with Doran's Blade and a potion. In the current meta, many bot lane champions opt for a longsword start so they get their first item upgrade faster, and so they get access to 3 potions instead of 1. For Samira, however, Doran's Blade is just the superior choice, because the extra health and Omnivamp make it much stronger for early all-in situations in which Samira needs to thrive. Sadly, Doran's Blade is only bought by 12.8% of Samira players, whereas 87.2% are buying Longsword instead, so better click that Doran's Blade button. As I've already explained, this player's standard core build is Shield Bow into Bloodthirster and Death's Dance. You buy basic boots during the early game whenever it is practical, but you don't upgrade them until after you've completed your Bloodthirster. This item is just huge for Samira, and by delaying your boots upgrade, you effectively get Bloodthirster 800 gold earlier. Only then do you upgrade your boots to plated steel caps for additional protection when you dash forward with your E. After your core build, you in fact do start buying pure damage items, but these are two of the strongest in the game, and with that much lifesteal, dealing more damage also significantly improves your healing values. Infinity Edge will be activated as soon as you buy it, since Shield Bow and Bloodthirster already provide you with 40% crit, and Lord Dom's is simply the best late game damage item even against squishy targets due to base armor level scalings. But what if you are playing against a team with lots of mages and Death's Dance would not be worth it? Well, in this case you simply skip Death's Dance in favor of an earlier Infinity Edge, and you also get Mercury Treads instead of plated steel caps for easy access to some magic resist. You also get Lord Dominic's Regards earlier, making for a much more explosive build, and for your last item the rank 1 player opts for Guardian Angel. You will always take at least some physical damage, since true full AP teams are pretty much non-existent, and the passive is effectively a get out of jail for free card even against a 6 items burst mage. Now, if you want to learn more about the strategies used by the best Samira players in the world, all you need to do is click the link on your screen right there.